In this video we shall review database modeling in more details. Let's start with a quick reminder. We have three levels of database modeling. With conceptual level, we speak about subject matter regardless database type. With datalogical level, we also speak about subject matter but regarding database type or even certain DBMS. And in physical level, we speak about some technical details, technical aspects regarding certain DBMS. How can we represent modeling results for each level? With conceptual level, we have several approaches. The first and the most common is texts, lists. Ordinary lists everybody is familiar with. Here we see an example about some file that has an ID, owner, size, name, date of creation, and so on. This approach also may be represented with tables. And why is this approach the most common? Because every person, everybody in the world understands lists. Even if some representative of our customer is not a technical specialist, he can also understand lists. That's why this approach is the most common. But of course, in some cases we may use special graphical representation, and we shall review it now. The first graphical approach for ontological level is semantic model. Here is the example. This model consists of some entities and links between that entities with actions. Such approach helps you to understand complex subject matter. Maybe you are not a specialist in that subject matter, but with such a schema you can understand it well. And even if you are an expert in subject matter, such approach helps you to remember everything, not to forget any detail. The next graphical approach is based on graph model. Here we see an example. Such approach helps us to understand some system, states of that system, and how the system may move from one state to another state or somehow back and so on. Here on the screen you see a typical graph of states of defect report in some backtracking system. This is rather common approach, and like semantic schemas we've seen one slide back, this approach also helps us either to understand complex subject matter or to remember everything about subject matter, even if we are experts in it. And there is one more approach, entity relation model. Here we see an example of some simple entity relation model in UML graphic notation. Here we see some entities like news or news rubrics, and we see attributes of those entities. And we also see that those entities are somehow connected between. This approach is one of the most commonly used in databases. Of course, one have to understand UML, but the concept is rather simple. You may agree with me seeing that picture. So be ready to see such schemas, a lot of such schemas in our course and in real life while modeling databases. Datalogical level also have several representation types. First of all, it's data specifications. Here on this picture you may see the inner structure of MP3 file. Yes, for real, any MP3 player is some kind of DBMS, database management system, in quotation marks of course. Such a DBMS operates database consisting of MP3 files, and the inner structure describes the MP3 file, and that is how we may describe something on datalogical level. The next approach is some special formats. For instance, for XML, we may use XML schema definitions or some other format. Here we absolutely have to understand what kind of DBMS we are using, what kind of database we are modeling, and we shall select that approach accordingly. And of course we have some graphical representation. Let's review it in details. The most common graphical approach here is UML once again. Here we see a schema that was created using such tool as Sparks Enterprise Architect. Here we see entities or database tables. We see attributes of those entities, some properties of that attributes, some operations DBMS should perform on the attributes. We see links here or relationships. We see cardinality of that links. So we see a lot of technical details, and this form is rather simple. Of course, if you are not familiar, it may seem difficult for the first time, but it will become simple, familiar, and easy to use for you. On the physical level, we may also use UML schemas, EDF1X schemas, rather old, so for now you may rarely see such schemas, and we also may use any other approach. Why is it so? Because this level highly depends on DBMS type, DBMS itself, some goal to achieve, and so on, and so on, and so on. So here we may see with these other approaches something like pictures, fragments of configuration files, some text description, anything we like, anything we may find useful to describe some technical details. So, unlike with infological or datalogical level, here we have few of universal approaches. We have to select something that suits our goals the best way.